I will dive a little more into what we do with it and how can we make some changes in our life, how can we, if we choose to, and how we can navigate it differently, how we can go into some of those places within us that perhaps we have not wanted to explore before for all the reasons that we do in our human experience. Pierre Delard Desjardins. Hey, I did pretty good. I practiced it because last week I didn't do so well with it. Anyway, he was the French philosopher who coined the phrase that we often hear in this teaching: we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I'm assuming everybody has heard that before if you're familiar with this. I remember 20 plus years ago when I walked to a church, Unity North actually, years ago, and I'd already been introduced to Science of Mind when I was living out west. But I heard that and was put in a different languaging, like spiritual beings having a human experience. And I thought, fascinating. And then I won't get into my personal journey around stuff because that's a very different, that's a workshop really. And I'm grateful for those moments. I can stand here this morning and say I'm grateful for having gone through boot camp, if you will, for people that brought those experiences to me that really felt crappy and I didn't know what to do with. And so this topic, especially what's been going on in the world the last few years, nobody's really noticed anything, I'm sure. It's like, how do we navigate life when it's really hard? How do we navigate it when it's, like, that's really scary? I can't believe that person or those people. You can see what I'm already doing? I'm othering, if you're familiar with that term. I'm othering. I can't believe they're saying what they're saying. I can't believe they're doing what they're doing. Okay? So what do we do with that? Or if somebody's going through a really hard time, and I'm a self-confessed spiritual addict. Okay? When I got into this teaching, I drank the Kool-Aid, I dove in head first, and I'm the first one to stand here and say, it took me back to my days in the Baptist church. I never was Mormon to proselytize, but certainly in the Baptist church of what was called witnessing. I was so good at it. Because it gave me a place to hide, being what I call a non-binary person. I don't like labels, but early on in my life, I knew that I didn't kind of fit into the mold. So I kind of got involved with a really big Baptist church in Cobb County with a very well-known minister because I could hide in there, just like I hid throughout my whole life. And I took my feelings and my thoughts and everything, and I shoved them down as far as I could into those dark recesses, into places that I didn't even know that I had. So for each of us, I know I'm not alone in this. Whether you're conscious of it or not, we all have done it. We all do it. That's part of what? The human experience. This is great for this month, that we can hopefully arrive at a place of understanding for ourselves and for other people and not say, oh, well, what are you thinking about? Look at your life. If your thoughts were higher or better, maybe your life would look differently, which I had quite a few people say to me when I was at this Unity church, when for a few years there, everything that could have happened did happen. That was not very pleasant in my life. It was just one thing after another. And I'm sure I'm probably not the only person who's experienced that either. But if I am the only one, it doesn't make any difference. What matters is how I am with it today, where I am with it today. And I'm grateful for the people in that community at the time who were able to say to me, Jeanie, I'm really sorry to see that this is happening for you, and not sorry out of a place of sympathy, but out of a place of empathy. Or I know you're going through a really hard time. I will hold space for you. And I thought, what the heck does that mean? I didn't know what that meant. Now I do. But I'm also grateful for the people who said, gosh, Jeanie, you know what? You've been having a lot of really bad stuff happen in your life lately. you might want to pay attention to what you're thinking. I don't know that I want to hang around you very much because your energy, your vibration, that's not something that I want to be around. So, yoo-hoo for me, woohoo for me that I was able to experience contrast right off the bat and didn't know what to do with it. Any of this sound or feel a little familiar to you perhaps at different junctures in your life? So let me give you an idea of toxic spirituality and some actual definitions because there's so much research on this. Actually, I took a wonderful, wonderful online workshop with Dr. Richard Schwartz and Dr. Lissa Rankin. She's an MD, and Dr. Schwartz is a psychotherapist. And they're really exploring this toxic spirituality in the framework of what's called IFS, internal family systems. My background is in counseling. That's what my education is in, amongst all the other things that I've done. So I was so excited to see these two people come together to explore this and what happens early on in our life, and even some ancestral things that we carry on that we don't even know about that are within us, okay? Energetically. Call it energetic residue, call it whatever you want to call it, it's there, and we're not aware of it. And the only way, I believe, and I didn't used to believe this, is, folks, you got to feel it to heal it. You got to get in touch with it, and you've got to be willing to go inside and do the inner work. And for those of you who heard me speak here now for 15 years, if you've heard me talk about inner work once, you've heard me talk about it 1,000,000 times. And I'm a real strong proponent in that. But I'm also very mindful to say, you don't have to do it like I do it. You don't have to do it like Jan does it, or Mike. There are different ways that, just like the God of your understanding, and how you have your relationship with Mother, Father, God, whatever you want to call it, Buddha, Allah, it doesn't matter. Creator, you need, here I'm saying, tell me what you need to do. Goodness, I invite you. Okay, I caught it, yes. I say that to myself, Jeanie, you need to. And I go, no, Jeanie, I'm inviting you, yes, to take a look at those things. Truly. Because if we believe and we hold and we ascribe to the philosophy, and even in unity, it's not enough to know, it's to what? To be the example of, yes? So how do we do that when we're hung up over here on our own stuff? Does it mean you have to be free and clear of all of your stuff to be effective out there? No, not at all. But what it means is, again, you're being invited, you're being called, is what I believe is happening all the time in every moment. To say, yes, I choose to be the most amazing example of the Christ consciousness, to let that emanate from me. These things have I done, and greater things than these will you do. We are not separate from. To be the example, I don't have to shove something down your throat to try to convince you. I used to do that because that's what I learned. That's how I grew up. When you see something happening out there and you vehemently disagree with it, what do you do with it? I'll just leave that question for you right now. Spirituality, the definition of spirituality, and actually it's the dictionary, the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material things. We practice spirituality with the intention of connecting with the soul of the world, ourselves, and the divine. Our goal isn't to gain anything in the material world. Instead, it is to grow and evolve, expand, evolve on a soulful level. Spirituality involves a recognition of a feeling, a sense, or belief that there is something greater than myself, something more to being human than sensory experience, and that the greater whole of which we are part is cosmic or divine in nature. Toxic spirituality is based on the belief that negative emotions are bad, and by always thinking happy thoughts, even when they aren't authentic, we can instantly elevate ourselves from any situation, no matter how challenging. We are inclined to repress our negative emotions, which results in denial, discounting, and minimalization of the human experience. I see a lot of heads nodding. I know we can all relate to that. Excuse me. There's a wonderful book by Robert Augustus Masters. He's a psychologist and spiritual teacher. It's called Spiritual Bypassing, when spirituality disconnects us from what really matters. May we not keep our shadow in the dark, but instead become truly intimate with it, bringing to it a compassion that is both clear-hearted and disarmingly powerful. A compassion simultaneously fierce and tender, precise and far-reaching, personal and transpersonal. Such deep care helps transform our relationship to our shadow so that its energies serve rather than obstruct our well-being. Through this deepening integrity, we shift into a truer fullness and open to a deeper life. Doesn't that just sound delicious? Whoa, that's what the shift, remember? Holy shift, right? When you have that moment and you're like, oh, you know what I'm talking about. That we would say to ourselves, that's how I want to live my life. That's how I want to create and enjoy my human experience, because that is what will help me get through the times that are tough and challenging and icky and yucky. Some samples of toxic positivity. Who's ever heard those two words put together? Toxic positivity. First time I heard that, I said, seriously, how could positivity be toxic? Well, you know, I had great teachers that I told you about 20-something years ago to teach me what that was all about. So I've been studying for 20-something years now. It's like, okay. The pressure to only display positive emotions. Suppressing any negative emotions, feelings, reactions, or experiences. And when we do this, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we are invalidating our human experience. And listening to this wonderful workshop and doing a lot of reading, it leads to trauma, isolation, and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how dire or difficult the situation is, people should, there's that shoulding, you're shoulding all over me again, stop it, right? Or yourself, you're shoulding all over yourself. I've got several diplomas in that one. Yeah, I see a lot of hands going up. I've got, the advanced degree on that one. Okay. And certainly, I'm not dismissing. Those of you here, most of you anyway, not all of you, but most of you know me well enough to know, absolutely, it's great to be positive. Of course, and there's research that shows what happens in the brain. Okay, I'm all about research, neuroplasticity, all of that. But when it turns a corner and it becomes something else, that's when it can become abusive. Spiritual abuse, anybody ever heard those two words together? Okay. Anyhow, there are benefits to being optimistic and engaging in positive thinking. How often have you heard, and now to me it's ad nauseum, you're thinking, mind your thoughts. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Several years ago when thank you, Lord, for connecting with HeartMath Institute to learn about the brain, heart, and 40K neurons in there, I think minimally, and to have your head brain be informed by your heart brain. Whoa. And this is all research, documented stuff. That's what's so beautiful about it. It's not some woo-woo thing I'm standing up here telling you about that I just made up and read. You never know with me. I'm just kidding. Okay. I think I'll read this for the third time. Certainly there are benefits to being optimistic and engaging in positive thinking, but toxic positivity rejects all difficult emotions in favor of a cheerful and often falsely positive facade. Anybody ever live like that? Yep, I saw a couple hands there. It's like, okay, not here. Okay. Oh, that was my adulthood. Okay, yeah. And trying to be, like, okay, yeah. It's when the rubber meets the road and you have the opportunity to get real with yourself. Really, really real. And cut through all the, you've heard me say, your spiritual BS, okay, belief system, but cut through all the other BS that gets in the way. Truly. And let's just cut to the chase and get to it. And even as you hear me say that, some of you might say, you know what, Jeanie, I'm going to slide out the door right now because that's not something I care to do. And what I say to that is, that's okay. I'm not here to tell you how you have to be. If that's not what you're here to do in this lifetime, that's okay with me. But I'm calling myself out this morning as I offer that to you. And you all know me well enough to know I share things and I just kind of say it like it is. When I used to gloss over things. No. I don't want to hide in that spiritual closet anymore and deny. I lived in a closet for most of my life. I've already been out of one closet. I don't care to come out of another one. Just saying. Because then I have to update my wardrobe, right? What are people going to say? I think she needs some new threads. Okay. Having a positive outlook on life is good for your mental, physical health, and well-being. We know that. Research tells us that. But life isn't always roses and sunshine, happiness and laughter. I think we'd all agree that our human experience does have the ups and downs, the mountains and the valleys, and all of it. And ideally, when we're in the depths of despair and in the darkness, I know I've suffered with depression throughout my whole life, chronic depression. And I read a great book years ago. I can't think of, it was an MD, Burns. Was it Burns? David Burns is coming to mind. I'm not sure. But it was talking about what you can discover in the depths of depression, right? It's kind of like digging into your roots and seeing what's there. That's hard work, folks. So, that's when you need somebody to be your guide and to help you through that. Some of us go it alone. I've gone alone, on that a lot myself, but I feel like I was blessed in ways to be able to explore it and to get in touch with some pretty heavy-duty stuff. But to take those moments, even, you've heard me talk about COVID here a number of times and how I really felt like it was an opportunity for us to look at things in a way we never had before. And whether we chose to do it or not, that was up to us. Or we could just stay, pissed off and angry the whole time and point fingers and do all of that stuff. And to me, that's like the spiritual bypassing. Whether it's toxic positivity, gaslighting, what I call spiritual arrogance, whatever you want to call it, all of it is right there. Is it nourishing you? Or is it just giving you an excuse to point the finger and do the othering and the blaming and the shaming and the guilting? And when we do that, to me what it's saying, I think there's a mirror effect happening here. Maybe or not. I can look at it and go further than just looking at it. And in the midst of all of this is the peace of being gentle with yourself, compassionate, and understanding. Sometimes it's easier for us to do that with another person than it is with ourselves. But the relationship I have with me is going to be very indicative of the kind of relationship I'm going to create with you. Because if I'm not okay with me, And I have chosen to deny, dismiss, look away from those shadow aspects, or the dark side, if you will. So be it. I can't remember, Jim might know this, because you're a Bible scholar, where Jesus, maybe it's in A Course in Miracles, when Jesus said something like, brother, choose again. Choose again. And I forget, it's in A Course in Miracles, not in the Bible. Speaking of the Bible, I had this image last Sunday when I was on my way to Gainesville to do this talk there, and this was a very different talk than the one I gave last Sunday. And I was thinking of Jesus and the Sermon on the Mount, okay? Really his first public appearance, okay? And crowds are gathering and all of that, and he's like, okay. So he calls his disciples over, right? Can you imagine if Jesus had said, you know, guys, there's some funky vibes out there. There's some negativity. There's some toxic energy out there. And I'm really getting a little nervous to be around these people. What am I going to do? You ever found yourself doing that? Well, I can't go be around that person because they are so toxic. Have you been around them lately? Oh my God, their energy is below 200. If you look at David Hawkins' scale, it's freaking below 200. What am I going to do? Well, make sure your chakras are aligned. You got the colors in order. Make sure you've got the big bubble going on, right? Okay, I got my third eye. We're all good. Do your chants. Do the hokey pokey. We've already done that one time here before, Mike. Exactly. That's what it's all about. So make sure you've got your stuff together. Okay, now I can go be around that person. Maybe for 5 minutes if I'm lucky, right? And I'm saying this in jest because I have done that. I said I'm a self-confessed spiritual addict here. It's like, give me more and let me make sure I take it and go share it with everybody else, whether they want to hear it or not. Yeah? Yeah. It's like, oh, enough already, Jeanie. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. Well, I also lived in Salt Lake City, so I'm real familiar with people getting out there telling people about what they believe. Oh, yeah. That's a whole other planet. But I know in that Baptist church, like I said, because in high school I was a well-known athlete, woohoo, back in the day, basketball for girls. But I was, and they go, oh, Jeanie Ward, what do you have to say today? And I'd do those spiritual pep rally things in the junior high schools and high schools. And I'm not mocking it, so please, but I look back on it, and folks, I had to give myself a lot of grace. And I had to go, you know what, kiddo? With the consciousness that you were living at the time, you were doing the damn best you could. So cut yourself some slack and breathe. I would say, well, just get over it and move on. I don't do that anymore. Gently, lovingly. That part of me that's wanting to be embraced and loved. But I would, and I'd stand up there, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That was my go-to scripture. I said it at every single rally I went to. Yeah. Because I did what I needed to do to hide who I was. Because if I let you see me, and I lost so many friends when they learned about me and how different I was. I guess maybe Jesus felt the same way. He was kind of an outsider, wasn't he? Yeah. Nobody's left yet, Mike. The good vibes only approach to life denies us the authentic support and validation that we need to cope and navigate what we are dealing with. And the last thing that I want to read to you today. Give me just a moment. I think it was actually at the beginning. I wasn't sure if I would share it. It's a pretty lengthy poem, but given with everything I've shared with you this morning, I think it's asking me to share it with you now. It's by Thich Nhat Hanh. Shared this a few years ago at another Unity church. So just sit back. Take it all in. Please call me by my true names. Has anybody ever heard this poem by Thich Nhat Hanh? Okay, a handful of you. And you'll understand how it applies to what I said to you today. Because we all have the dark and the light. We all have everything, every aspect within us. So when you look at somebody else and you're thinking, oh, I'm more awakened, I'm more enlightened than they are, I've got so many spiritual PhDs, that ain't me. Au contraire. Please call me by my true names. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second I am arriving to be a bud on a spring branch. To be a tiny bird with still fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of a river. And I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond. And I am the grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am also the pirate. My heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands. And I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the 4 oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names so I can wake up and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. No matter who you are, what you believe yourself to be, wherever you are on your journey, I truly hope that you will remember that we are truly all one. And we are in this together. And love, compassion, kindness. Those are just 3 of the ingredients that will help each of us to become whole again and to return to that wholeness that we already are, and to truly know it and to shine it. To be the light, as Mike always says, Unity Church of the Mountains, where the light always shines. Think of each of yourselves as a candle. And when all the candles come together, the beautiful light that will shine. And in those moments of your darkness, whatever it is, remember, without the darkness, we would never see or appreciate or know the stars. Thank you all so much.